So another Apposita has passed. We've had recited the Patimokkha today. It's very nice to hear monks who've taken on the responsibility of learning the Patimokkha and our 227 rules. And it's memorizing about 13,000 words in Pali and then reciting that for the community to hear. We do that every 2 weeks. And it's always delightful to hear for myself other monks who've taken that on and making a contribution to the community. So as part of our Vasa time, we've had, these monks on retreat and spending time alone quietly in the forest. Lumpur has just recently come back. And that brings with it a sense of, for myself, a feeling of groundedness, stability. So Lumpur appears. Also a feeling of, uh-oh, I better watch myself and be more careful. I've been recently reflecting on that sense of just how easy it is to, for myself, to get myself in trouble, to move into some sort of unwholesome action or reaction by body, speech, or mind. And how difficult sometimes it can be to move towards the wholesome. I was talking to Ajahn Cunda earlier this evening about a sutta called the Cūḻa Dhamma-Samādāna Sutta. And in it, the Buddha talks about essentially 4 intentions. And he says there's the actions you do, I think it's by body, speech, or mind, that you like doing, and they have a wholesome result. And then there's actions that you do by body, speech, or mind that you like doing, but they have an unwholesome result. And there's actions that you do by body, speech, or mind that you don't like doing, and they have a wholesome result when you don't do them. And there's actions of body, speech, and mind that you don't like doing, that when you don't do them, they have an unwholesome result. And so it's interesting, thinking about these, there's obviously 2 we don't need to put much effort into, and that's the things that we like doing that give us wholesome results, and the things that we don't like doing that lead to unwholesome results. Because obviously if we don't like doing them, they lead to unwholesome results, then it's sort of something we're not inclined to do. But we need to be very careful around those things that we like doing that give us unwholesome results, and the things that we don't like doing, but those yield wholesome results. And it's strange because when you think about it, you think, why would we why would we do things that give us unwholesome results? Whether we like them and we don't like them. And so in that sutta, and I think it's Majjhima 45, the Buddha talks about a tree, a great tree that has a small, soft creeper beginning to creep around it. And the other trees tell the big tree, that soft creeper, it's just kind of, it's soft and downy. It seems quite harmless, but eventually it's going to cause you great harm, and the tree doesn't see that. Doesn't see that as a problem, doesn't see it as a danger. And so the problem is, for us, it can be very hard. I know for myself to see when there are little things in our minds, our underlying tendencies, especially that they can seem soft and downy. They can seem like they're really not going to cause us much of a problem. We say, "Oh, that's my favorite food. I really like that," or "This is my favorite activity to do. This is my favorite kind of. Oh, I got this great work assignment," or whatever it might be that we have a preference towards. Or we talk about our views, our views and opinions, and we can carry those around. They can just seem like kind of innocuous, not a problem. Lumpur was talking about this, how tanha and ditthi and mana, so our sense of just strong desires in the sensual realm, or these views and opinions, or just our sense of I-ness, my-ness. These occur all the time for us. And yet they can seem very just minor, not really a problem. But they're just like these creepers. They just start to surround a tree, and we, it's possible just not to see it. It just seems like such a small thing in the beginning. We carry a view around, and it gets stronger, or we have a particular preference, especially in the sensual realm, something we like to see or hear or taste, something we like to think about that isn't very helpful for us to think about. And sure enough, it just starts to creep around more and more, and eventually strangles that tree. It's like the defilement strangling the mind. Or views and opinions doing that, or just that sense of self it can pull us down so easily. We can't. It's very hard to see. So there is an effort that needs to be made around those things that we like doing that are unwholesome for us, and those things that we don't like doing that we'd rather not do. But when we do them, they are wholesome, in fact. This is where Ajahn Chah says, if you like, when you want to meditate, meditate, but when you don't want to meditate, then meditate. So I can think of, my own, examples from my own life. I remember early on, just today, in fact, just saying some things that were regrettable, and pondering that, just thinking, how does this happen? How does one keep suffering from foot and mouth disease? And how easy that comes up, but it's it seems like, oh, I just want to say this, I want to do that. Say this one thing, get it off my chest, and then dukkha. And so that it's a interesting lesson to learn because or not to learn. But it's just amazing sometimes just to see like the continuing patterns, the continuing karma we have. And then really, it's and then that mana comes up, that I-ness. Oh, I'm a person who says things at the wrong time, wrong place. It doesn't mean to say them at all. And that mana starts to creep in like that creeper strangling the tree, because then we get lost in the self-identity view. And it seems so solid, so very real. This is who I am. I'm the person who does this or that. And we can, of course, do it the other way too. We can, talk about our greatness. We're so talented in this particular way, and identify with that. So there's an effort that needs to be had, an effort that needs to be brought forth in our practice, and most of us are aware of these things for ourselves. But it can feel like quite a lot sometimes to bring that effort up. And I think one of the main things that is helpful to see is that there can be a delighting in this effort that we can make towards those things that are difficult for us to do. The particular things, the underlying tendencies, those pulls that we have of our own hearts towards just essentially getting ourselves into trouble. So in practicing the Buddha's teachings, of course, we need that sense of following right effort and bringing our minds to a more collected state, and continuing with sati sampajanya, mindfulness and clear comprehension. These are our sort of posts that keep us well grounded, keep the mind in the present moment. It doesn't let it stray towards all of the content that's quite distracting, and that we know that we tend to feel is so real, and the sense of who and what we are. So in another sutta we were talking about was the Aryavamsa Sutta, and that the Buddha has a list of four points that he says that you want to around contentment. So we've heard this so many times. The Buddha talks about contentment with one's robes, what clothes you wear, the alms food that you receive. So it is what food we eat, and our lodgings. So where it is we live, we dwell, we sleep at night. And so these are just little points that we can see all day long. Just looking at my robe, I see a hole in it, and immediately some discontent arises. Oh, that shouldn't be happening. I just sewed this robe 6 months ago, and now there's a hole in it. Must have been bad fabric. And it's it's just that sense. Oh right, this is impermanent. This is how things are, and there's nothing wrong with this robe. It helps protect me in many ways. I feel the same with our lodgings. And contentment means that we don't also move into discontent around the things that we think are too good for us. I have the fortune now to actually live in Lumpur's old kuti, which I didn't imagine would happen to me any time really. But there's a shower and a toilet in there, a sink, and admittedly that's quite luxurious. And so I can feel, oh, there's discontent. It's too nice, and it's quite a cool kuti. It stays cool without much effort, leaving the windows open at night. And so I thought, wow, this is too luxurious. It's too nice. And then the grinder pump stops working, and there's no more use of a toilet, shower, and a sink. And oh my gosh, I can't use the toilet. I can't use the shower. I can't use the sink. What? There's no pit toilet outside. What am I supposed to do? It's like, how am I supposed to drive to drink out of a hose now? Got to take a shower in the mub. Amongst utility building. I mean, it's like, wow. Well, if I hadn't moved into that kuti, I would have never even had those thoughts. And yet there it is, discontent with something being too nice, and then content with now it's not enough. And so in the Aryavamsa Sutta, the Buddha, the fourth point on the list would have been possibly medicine, which is the fourth requisite for the monastics that we reflect on. But the Buddha doesn't mention that. He mentions something else. He says that of the four on this list, which is customs of the noble ones, that one is developing, the fourth custom of a noble one is one who delights in the relinquishing of the unwholesome and delights in the development of the wholesome. Now that is amazing. That is truly astounding to really think about that. Like, how is it that one can delight in these things? And it's quite a brightening of the mind when we can reflect on that and think about, oh yeah, like this is quite beautiful to reflect on contentment, to reflect on those things that bring a brightness to the mind, to think about, for example, like, Ajahn Cunda just, I was writing with this little pen I have in my, that I keep in this belt pocket that I have, belt bag. And I like this pen a lot. It's a little pen, and it's quite a nice pen. And Ajahn Cunda had said, oh, that's a nice pen, so I didn't want to give it to him. But I knew that that's what I should do. And it was only a moment that came up, oh, I like this pen, I can't give this pen away, I've had this pen for years. In fact, it's an identical pen to the other pen I replaced years ago, so I mean, I'm not... And I just handed it to him. And believe me, this is not showing off, I have a lot of defilements. So I handed it to him, and I just, and it was immediate. It was an immediate sense of happiness, relief in letting go, goodness in giving somebody something that I treasured myself. And of course, there was a defensiveness that came to the mind. Well, I'll just make another one. I'm going to make a better one. And, whatever. I didn't say better, but I just knew I was kind of comforting myself. I'll get another small pen. But that came up, that real sense of like, oh yeah, like just giving this up. Like this felt so happy and nice. And I reflected on his having that pen and keeping that pen and using that pen. And I don't have that kind of experience a lot, but when I do, it's quite nice. It's quite special, and it goes in that delighting in relinquishment, relinquishing the unwholesome to hold on to something, and that developing, sort of developing that sense of what is wholesome, what is helpful. So it's that thing I don't like to do, but it has a wholesome effect. And for each one of us sitting here tonight, we can think about these things for ourselves. Where is it that we get ourselves into trouble? Where is it that that we can let go of what is unwholesome for us? Develop that wholesome. I remember there was a time when I, with my foot and mouth disease, I had said something in front of a group of bhikkhus, essentially criticizing another bhikkhu, not even thinking about it. I was just kind of telling a story, and it was this in Ajahn. And so the part of that delighting in is also just not making a person out of it. I can think, 10 minutes before puja is not a good time to tell someone they've been given a large responsibility in the monastery. So let me just get this off my chest. And then I can come back to that and say, oh, that was a mistake. And immediately that mana comes up, that ahankara mamankara, that sense of I-making and my-making and what I am and who I am. And we develop these quite diluted perceptions, these frames of reference that are not helpful to us because they feel so solid and real. They feel so permanent and they fit right in with, yep, that's me, that's what I do. And we can compare ourselves to others. We can just tell ourselves we're going to be stuck in some sort of permanent state. It's always going to be like this. And if we want, we can die like that. We can die in these permanent states. We can believe that to be true. And so taking on the Buddha's practice is really an effort in commitment to uncovering what is difficult to see, what is difficult to handle, to deal with, to be committed towards a path that, it can feel like there's a lot of dukkha developing our path, but we're not moving in that direction of dukkha. We're not following the rabbit hole in that way. We're trying not to lead towards more dukkha, even if we see dukkha clearly. Seeing it allows us to see that there is an actual end to it. So Lumpur was talking about nibbana paccaya hotu, so that sense of may this be a cause for nibbana, and that our sense of what it is that we're doing, the efforts that we're making, we can see that even if they're just small little things that we can do that are wholesome for ourselves, they are a cause for nibbana. And as Lumpur said, not what we also can do, which is to lead towards a cause of dukkha, which can be so common. For example, if you're thinking about your meditation practice, or you're just observing your own mind, sometimes we get into a sense of quite a difficult emotion, something that isn't easy for us to handle. And this can happen in subtle ways or great ways that are... what might come up as an inclination in the mind is, okay, I know my Dhamma practice, I know how to do this, I know how to deal with this, I'm going to focus my attention, and I'm going to get through this, and and then eventually I'll see it clearly. The anger will drop away, and it will be so pleasant, or the fear will drop away, and I will just through observation, I'll get to this point where the fear is just dissipated, or my embarrassment goes away, or whatever it is. And we can see that as wholesome and helpful, and surely unpleasant experiences, as they diminish, that's pleasant. But that's not why we're endeavoring on the Buddha's path. We're endeavoring on the Buddha's path so we can learn from our experiences. Over and over and again, we can learn the impermanent nature of them. We can gain insight into that, insight into the not-self characteristic, the sense that this is just an illusion that we keep attaching to, this sense that we are this solid being that we call ourselves. And so it's not to get away from things, it's actually to move towards it. We're moving towards our experience in a way that we're essentially heroically allowing ourselves to be available to them, to experience them in the fullest degree, so that we can have learning and understanding. And in that way, we do move towards dukkha. We move towards it in a way, though, that is allowing us to see it, to very much open to it. And being very aware of that sense of impermanence, and that sense of not creating more and more self, more and more solidity, more and more of that creeper going around the tree that's telling us, this is who I am, this is what I am. And so the effect, of course, is that there is the wholesome that can arise. And there is, there's the decrease of dukkha that arises. But we're understanding that as a sense of our own learning, our own clear seeing, so that it's a cause for nibbana. We've been chanting for a dear friend of mine several times, who's recently become a quadriplegic and is on a ventilator. And that, I think that's my own experience with that is it's been very hard to put myself in his place to understand how extremely difficult that could be. Extreme being an understatement, I think. And so I think it's quite easy for my friend to get quite downhearted about life. And he was talking to a woman when he was having a difficult time, who was she's a chaplain, and I think when she came to see him, I think something happened around the sense of like, well, I don't know if you can really help me, in a sense I have a very specific kind of spiritual practice. I'm a Theravada Buddhist. And she said, oh, me too. And after listening to him talk about these great difficulties, just very disheartening, kind of not sure wanting to go on, really. She paused and she said, well, freedom from the unpleasant is not true freedom. And so our practice, our following the Buddha's teachings, is really to confront that truth. We're here to confront dukkha, to meet it, to have a sense of clarity around it, no matter how difficult it is, and to see it when we don't want to see it, to chase it down, to really make sure that we can sort of not allow this creeper to wrap itself around us, this sense of our sensual desire, our views, and our sense of what I am as a permanent entity. And when we're able to really have that sense of commitment towards that path, then we see that it's possible to shine forth, to go forth in a way that yields that delight in what we're developing. And so, of course, it's not always pleasant. And in fact, it can seem like it's mostly unpleasant. But it's important to see that, well, there's a lot of pleasant that actually arises. And most of that, I find for myself, comes out of sattā, which is faith. And faith in the Buddha's teachings comes a little bit differently than it does that I've found in other religions, because it's not really understood as belief. We understand it as confidence. So we are trying these things out that I'm speaking about, and we're seeing that it's working. We're seeing that actually there is the release of dukkha that's happening when we understand it, when we see it clearly. And so that confidence builds within us, and greater and greater delight can happen. Until we have these experiences where we don't want to do something, and because we don't like it, but we feel, yeah, it's the best thing for me to do. It's the best thing for me to just develop some patience right now and not say that thing that I want to say so badly. Or to be aware of another person there, another being. Or the thing that I like doing, having this particular food, or having a working toilet or whatever, just to kind of say, oh yeah, this isn't, it's not necessary, it's not needed. I can think of how many times I could save myself by just saying, well, is it necessary? And just to see that, yeah, there can be a sense of khanti and a sense of patience, and the result of that is clearly wholesomeness. So I think each of us has the potential to develop that within ourselves, to understand where it is we particularly need to let go around our own difficulties, our own dukkha, our own inclinations, our patterns, our karma. Where is it that each one of us gets into trouble, and how we can learn to delight in letting go of those ways, and delight in developing all of those positive ways that bring us wholesome outcomes. So anything that I've said tonight that you've found has been helpful, please take it with you, and anything else that has not been, then please feel free to leave it behind. You're welcome. Dhamma-Samādāna